It's been great to be on the Milly and JB show. Right? Scooby Doo.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode on the JB and Millie channel. I am JB and of course with me is Millie.
Hi.
And the special guest he'll be interviewing today is Mr. Neil Fanning. Thank you so much for joining.
Pleasure to be here in beautiful Sydney.
So this is amazing. Of course, you are iconic and people will recognize you as the voice of Scooby Doo in both 2002, Monsters Unleashed, the games, the rides. So incredible. Now you are about to prepare for two amazing events. We've got the Sydney Supernova event on the 17th and 18th of June and the Perth event on the following weekend. So we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us today in preparation for those two.
Absolute pleasure, JayBee Milly. Can't wait to see all the fans at Supernova. Honestly, the love and joy that I get from meeting everybody is amazing. So yeah, the Supernova fans, they're the best.
That is incredible. And the first Scooby-Doo movie I kind of want to talk about first is absolutely incredible. The movie of my childhood, adulthood, whatever. But before your involvement in that movie, how familiar were you with the Scooby-Doo franchise overall?
Yeah, I was very familiar with it, JB. I'd been watching the Scooby Doo cartoons since I was a child. Hanna-Barbera brought it out in 1969, and I'd been watching it every afternoon when I came home from school, just like millions of other people around the world. And it was hugely influential on me because Scooby Doo, although it is about ghosts and ghouls and things, it had that comedy element, which Scooby and Shaggy really brought to it. It had a specific formula so that you could know what's sort of coming up, and they're going to unmask the janitor now, and those sorts of things. So it was a familiar, safe space for everybody to watch, and it was really a lot of our childhood's introduction to horror or scary, which is a huge demographic now. It's a huge thing. So it was great, and so I followed that. And as a voice artist, that was when I started really, because I loved cartoons. I loved all the characters and the voices that came with them. So I would do all the voices as a young child. And that's really where my love for voices came from. So I was watching lots and lots of cartoons, Scooby included, but Scooby was a bit. Well, he was my favourite out of all of them, and then all the Looney Tunes characters and Huckleberry Hound and Wacky Races and all that era is where I sort of come from. But yeah, it was a joy to discover Scooby so young.
That's amazing. I guess with that in mind, like you said, that's kind of where even the thought of voices kind of started for you. Do you remember how you kind of transitioned from that to then eventually, being the voice reader for Scooby, and obviously things progressed from there?
Well, I was before I got Scooby Doo. I was a voice artist for about 5 years. On the Gold Coast, so it was Warner Brothers Studios, where they make amazing films. There's 9 studios there now. It's a massive complex. But back in the 90s, it was just in the starting phase of them establishing themselves as a film centre, the Gold Coast. So I was doing lots of. I had the opportunity. I worked at Warner Brothers Movie World in the Police Academy stunt show, a theme park. And that was supposed to go for 18 months and it went for 18 years. So it was hugely successful. And through that, I had a friend who was directing voices for the TV series that were currently running then. Beastmaster with Heath Ledger and Lost World and all these sorts of TV shows and feature films, to come in and revoice other actors. There's a lot of Australians in the shows, and maybe their accents weren't right or the voice pitch wasn't right. So I'd actually revoice them, and also do all the background actors. So I was doing ADR in the studio at Warner Brothers, and that's when the opportunity came to be the voice reader on set. So I mean, they shot Scooby Doo 1 at the studios in 2001, and I auditioned like every other voice artist in the country for that role because it was the biggest thing. That was probably the biggest voice opportunity in the world at the time, because going back 20 years, live action was very, very new. We were breaking ground. As a reference, we only really had Roger Rabbit, which was totally different cartoon sort of feel, but this was actually going to be Scooby in the movie. So interacting seamlessly at the time. So, I mean, you could probably do that animation on your phone now, but back then it took 100 animators, literally, to build Scooby in the computer. And so that opportunity came up, and I was successful in getting the voice reader's role. And so I was working with all the cast, Sarah Michelle Gellar and Freddie Prinze Jr. and all the gang. And so whenever Scooby was called to set on the call sheet, I'd go along, and I was just in civilian clothes, with talking to the actors, acting the role to the actors. So bringing Scooby to the set, and because it's very difficult, because he's not there, of course. Very difficult for the actors to act to nothing. They're acting. If I wasn't there, they'd be acting to an X, and someone would just be reading the dialogue, just a Reichs, Raggy, Raronster. I mean, it just doesn't. The time frame doesn't go for the guide track that they're recording. I was recorded, obviously, for the rushes that go back to the States at the time, and they really liked what I was doing, and it was an opportunity to put your best foot forward, and just do the best you can. I was able to actually provide dialogue options for the director, for Raja. I'd go and see him and say, look, I think Scooby would say something. He would say this here. What do you think? And he'd say, yep, look, he was fantastic in the fact that he gave me that chance to do an alternative. And he said, oh, well, we'll use it or not. And they used pretty much all of them, which was great. Little bits and pieces here and there. So I've contributed to the actual character in lots of ways. And then it all went on from there. So ended up reading Scrappy Doo, so, people don't remember Scrappy as the put him up, I'll rock him and I'll suck him. Happy power. That guy. Scooby's little nephew. And then Scooby would always be roll, Rappy, roll. So it was all this. He was the tough guy. Scooby was the soft coward. And so that was a nice dynamic. But a lot of the fans didn't quite like that, because it sort of mucked around with the dynamic of Scooby and Shaggy a bit. It's a bit Three's a Crowd kind of feel for the fans. So he didn't stay there for too long, Scrappy. And so they actually made him the villain in Scooby 1. Spoiler alert. And that's sort of how that came about, is that they Warner Brothers, I heard, wanted to sort of shelve Scrappy Doo as a character. And so they put him in jail, took him in the helicopter. See you later.
It's just so incredible to hear all those voices, and it is just so iconic. Because when I think about the voice of Scooby Doo, it really is your voice, your version of Scooby, that I instantly go to every time. And I'm just so grateful that you did earn out that role. I mean, obviously, you've made reference in a few previous appearances that it involved you kind of having a bit of a voice off with the previous, voice actor for Scooby. So what did that entail?
Thanks, JayBee. So he, at the time, that voice artist was in LA, and for whatever reason, they asked him, said, do you want to come out to Australia and voice read, do what I did for the 5 months, and then do the final recording? And maybe he was busy, I don't know. But he said, no, look, I'll just do the final recording. And they went, oh, okay, well, we'll find a local. Surely there'll be another voice artist in Australia that could fulfill this, which is how I came about. And it was just, as I say, I felt like it was a door opening and a possible opportunity to be considered for the end, if I did a good enough job. In entertainment, it's very difficult to have a level of success, and that was obviously the biggest thing that I'd done to date, voice-wise. Iconic character, and so I ended up voice reading Scooby, Scrappy, the ghosts, the ghouls. I read everything on the show, and they really liked what I did. And worked well with the cast. They appreciated what I was doing because I was actually helping their performance too. And I'm acting that role. I'm getting all the emotional scenes with Scooby and Shaggy and all those things. It's an acting role, and so it just all went on from there.
And I think those emotional scenes is why kind of presence was so important, because the kind of dynamic that was built between Shaggy and Scooby in that movie brought so many people to tears. I know there's a scene in particular in there for JayBee especially that it's just a fantastic relationship that was built up. And of course, like you said, it was a huge project. There was some incredible sets, and even the hotel of Spooky Island that looks very similar even to this day. Is there any particular sets that you remember walking onto and being kind of particularly impressed with or anything?
All of them. They were fantastic. Art direction was amazing. The vision that Raja and James Gunn, the writer, had expressed through the beautiful work of the art department was amazing. The set builders did a great job. This is all local crew from Australia who produced some amazing, beautiful sets. The Spooky Island foyer, where Velma sang a song, all that area with the big staircase. That was a set inside a soundstage on the lot. And when I walked in, I was just blown away. The level of detail is incredible. And then when we went to Tangalooma Island, which is it's on Moreton Island, just off Brisbane, to shoot the Spooky Island outdoor scenes. That was amazing. They transformed this little resort into an amazing university style spooky place where Rowan Atkinson Mondavarius was living and managing all that. So yeah, the sets were incredible. It was all pretty amazing and beautiful.
It certainly was. And I think you mentioned one scene there, the Velma singing scene, where I think it's fair to say some of the movie has become just as notorious for what wasn't making the final cut as to what was. So for you, was there any scenes that you remember recording or voicing that you kind of wish had been left in, or just that you enjoyed recording for it all?
Yeah, good question. There is some scenes that I don't know that they've made a director's cut. I'm not sure, but there were certainly scenes that were alternatives. Maybe there was lines that didn't quite work, or other lines that worked better for the cast. Nothing specifically I can remember, but there was definitely. I mean, they do that with all films. They all shoot different things and have different endings, possibly, to what ends up being the final ending. But it was. I mean, it was. It's going back 20 years. My memory's not what it used to be. But I mean, and look, I worked on the film. I worked on Scooby Doo 1 for 5 months, and then a year later we went to Vancouver and shot Scooby Doo 2: Monsters Unleashed, and so that was another 5 to 6 months. And then many times going to America and working at Burbank at the Warner Brothers lot, recording and recording from home as well, from Australia. So it's all a bit of a blur, but certainly some iconic scenes that people just absolutely love and recite to me when they come and see me at Supernovas, which is really lovely. I mean, people come up and do their voices to me or do a Shaggy, and I'll do Scooby back at them, which blows their mind. And always happy to do the voice for anybody. It's as I said earlier, this is the gift that keeps on giving for me. It's something I did a long time ago, and I'm in and around a lot of other stunt work that I'd done and acting and things and other voice stuff. But it's obviously the highlight of my career, and something that just keeps putting smiles on faces. So that's the joy.
I mean, everyone that we've interviewed that's associated with the two live action movies have sung your praises, that you were the perfect Scooby Doo for the movies, and especially Leon Jewson, who was, of course, the director of animation. We interviewed him, and he said that if they ever did a live action Jetsons movie, he would love for you to be the dog Astro in that. And so I got to ask, are there any other, iconic characters that you'd love the chance to interview voice one day?
Yeah, so Leon and I, he was the vision, I was the voice. So between us, we were the character in effect. And he became my best friend on the show. We still keep in touch. And I just did a job for him recently on I played a character called Hurly Burly, a big Aussie character in Holy Moly, that cartoon series in the UK. And Leon said, "I've got the guy for you," so I did that, which was amazing. Um, but yes, we talked about the Jetsons at the time because Warner Brothers had the rights to that and still do, I believe. And I'd love to do Astro. Astro was so Don Messick was the original Scooby Doo voice. He invented the voice back in 1969 and did a lot of the cartoons initially. Amazing voice artist, and unfortunately not with us anymore. But he also did Astro in the Jetsons. So they're similar dog voices, but they're slightly different. It's a different pitch. So I've actually done a demo. So if anyone out there from Warner Brothers wants me to do it, I've got it nailed. So I'll send you my demo. But I'd love to do the Jetsons. There was talk of that at the time many years ago, and maybe they'll do it. I hope they do because I mean, would be some amazing actors that could come on board. Steve Carell as George Jetson would be incredible. I mean, you name it. So he definitely Astro would be definitely one that I'd love to do. But it's about creating new voices too. So I've done a lot of radio commercials and other things where I've had to create a character in my head. And normally when you go into a recording session at a radio station for some commercials, you don't get the script beforehand. You walk in and you basically get your 6 commercials or more to do, and you might have one line. You might be doing the whole read of a character, or it might be a straight read, and you have to create those voices. So, for instance, there might be it's Avocado Land. So, this is the avocado guy character is going to be doing the voice. So, what does an avocado look sound like? So I need to ask the director, how I need to get some intel for my head to create this, the voice that's going to be suiting their feel for the character. How old is he? Is he big? Is he fat? Is he small? What is he? How educated is he? These the things that all lead to the voice coming out in the right way that's going to match what their imagination of the character is. And you don't get that in advance. You have to do that on the spot. And that's kind of where I got a lot of my training in interactive comedy from Warner Brothers Movie World when I was working there as an actor in the street shows initially, and then Police Academy Stunt Show. I did show number 1 there, and that was a whole range of different characters that we were doing live in the streets, and mostly American accents. So my American accent got very, very strong in a lot of dialects as well. Regions. So when I'm acting, I always the voice is always the first thing that drives all the character for me, and so creating characters from nothing is really difficult, and you have to have different alternatives. So you might come out with something and you think it's spot on because that's what you're thinking, and then they'll go, yeah, that was good, but we'll just try another something. Do we try a bit this way or a bit that way, and then you have to come up with another alternative for that voice. And that's the challenge. So it's and doing all those street shows and doing the interactive comedy, lots of different characters, voices, then becoming a voice artist. There's a skill there in creating that imagination, and that's where the actor comes in. So there's a lot goes into what you're doing, and it's really mentally taxing. You come out of that session absolutely drained because you've just had to come up with these things, very, very quickly, and doing the dialogue, getting all the script out correctly, and making sure that you're enunciating, and all those things that your training leads you to, is great, but super rewarding when you hear it back and they've done all the production, put all the sound effects in and the music and the other voice actors, and you hear it, you just go, awesome, very rewarding.
It is incredible to hear your process about developing voices and going into that process of things, which is absolutely incredible. And I think it's fair to say, one of the great things that I'm really excited to touch on with, the Supernova events is, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we've made it our personal mission to collect every single item from the 2002 first live action Scooby Doo movie, and it is an absolute challenge. They made fishing rods, bikinis, car seats, anything that you can name, they made. And so I'm curious to know, at these Supernova events, has there ever been a fan bring one of these particular items to you that just stand out as particularly unique?
Oh, look, and I was going to mention your treasure trove of amazing, beautiful things behind you there. It's super impressive. But yeah, they back in the they were just sort of starting with really launching into the merch for different movies back then, I suppose. And yes, there was everything you can imagine. But yes, I do get things brought to me, and that's the fun part too. You see this great line of beautiful people, and you don't know what they're going to bring you. So there's all sorts of different things that I've signed and had photos with and looked at, and I get people draw pictures of me or Scooby and Shaggy and give them to me as gifts, and it's just amazing. I'm just humbled by all that love that I receive. I'm getting chills now thinking about it. And that's why I love doing it, because it's giving back to the fans, and they are just so emotionally involved and bought into the whole Scooby world, because it's, as I said, it's been a safe space for them. It reminds them of their childhood, and there's a lot of people that come to me who have had struggles in the past, and they've always they tell me, I was feeling this, and it's quite emotional, and my safe space was to put Scooby on, and he just made me feel better. So I mean, what a gift! It's transcended really just a bit of a fluff movie into something that's really special, heartfelt for the fans, and I just I end up at the end of the day absolutely drained mentally and physically, because I just feel this responsibility to give everybody the time, as much time as I can, to acknowledge that they've come along and spent their time to come and see me and want to meet me, which is, as I say, it's very humbling.
Well, I think.
Oh, yes. In the answer to your question, sorry, I just got totally distracted. Yes, in Melbourne, just recently at Supernova, had to sign a body part, an ankle, and that lady went and got my name tattooed on her.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I said, are you sure? Really? But yeah, so that's the level, that it just blows my mind. Never ceases to amaze me what the amazing fans will do, and how much what it makes them feel. And that's life's about how you feel, isn't it? So anything that makes you feel good, I can't argue with that. It's up to everybody's different emotional being.
And see, I think key thing as well is just how timeless the movie is, because I imagine, like you say, when you get that queue during the day, it's people ranging from all ages, from, people our age that were, perhaps 5 or 6 when the movie was released, that are now introducing it to their
Yeah.
children, that are queuing up with like Scooby Doo Funko Pops and things like that. So, like you say, I think that's, a key thing as well, is just it's so timeless. And I think, the second movie, of course, was just as well received. And I think in that movie as well, you got to do a cameo in the faux ghost bar, which was I think it was our favorite set from that entire movie. Was there a set from 2002 that if you could have appeared on that you'd have wanted to?
Well, I was involved to a degree at in the rainforest in Tamborine Mountain, just behind the studios on the Gold Coast. So that was our sort of lush island scenes where the dance would happen and all the students were hypnotized. And I would have loved to have been there, but I wasn't, because I wasn't on that day. And that was an amazing set. But I did go to other sets within that, which was where the Scooby and Shaggy sort of had that altercation, the fight, which was extremely difficult to shoot. I'm not there. Matt Lillard, wow, he is just amazing. What a physical performer, and his voice, wow, absolutely nailed. He's a great friend of mine, and I highly respect his work, and as a man, as a human being, what a guy. Giving, loving. We went to the UK together to promote the release of Scooby Doo 2 on DVD when DVDs were around. And we went to St Albans Hospital and met all the kids in there, and we read them stories, and I got to see another side of Matt, which was amazing. But that scene, the fight scene there, that was really hard because I'm moving around, and it's in the behind the scenes a bit about how that happened, and it was we're having this altercation, and he's circling, we're circling each other, because he's circling nothing. I'm throwing the dialogue in, trying not to trip over his dialogue, so we get it clean on the mics. And we did it a lot of times. And Matt, it was really physical, and it was emotional, and then he dived into the pit as at the end. That was a very difficult scene to shoot, along with a lot of other ones that were hard. But I guess that was one of the hardest for him and me and all the crew to shoot it. And again, Raja Gosnell, director, just nailed all that, how that all came together. But again, it was another emotional part of the angst of the characters, and their character arc coming, leading to a point where they were a bit aggressive at each other, and that's never been seen before in any of the cartoons, that's for sure.
100%. It's just two performances that absolutely sell that relationship, to both in an on-set perspective, but also one that's lasted that test of time. And here's a curiosity. I know that this was probably a really long time. I mean, it definitely was quite a while ago now, but at the end of Scooby Doo 2, your character, of course, Scooby, can be heard telling the reporters Mary Jane is a man in a mask. And so I'm wondering, do you recall if that was reused audio for that scene for some reason, or was there some type of storyline where the reporters were asking about the first movie's events at all?
Yeah, I think it was I think that Mary Jane is around the house. That one. I think that's when I'm trying to because Shaggy's in love with Mary Jane, first girlfriend he's ever had, and why wouldn't you be? Isla Fisher, of course, absolutely gorgeous, and a great actor. And her first big foray into a major Hollywood blockbuster, so it really launched her career too, which was amazing. Of course, married to Sacha Baron Cohen, and doing really well. I think that was to to try and break him out of his sort of the spell of love that he was in. And he just couldn't, Scooby could sort of see what was happening, but he couldn't, convince Shaggy that was happening. So I believe that's where that line was put in. And yeah, eventually, obviously, they foil Scrappy in the end. So yeah, but I think that's where it was.
Thank you so much. And the last question we have about, what happened in the past before touching upon the future briefly. Did you keep any mementos from the set of either Scooby Doo movies that you still have today?
Yes. The main one for me was Matt Lillard. The legend he is organised with Warner Brothers to have the fiberglass head of Scooby that they used when they were coming through. The visual effects team would come through after we'd filmed the scene and do what's called a clean plate. So there's no one in the scene. It's just the lighting as it was. And they have a Scooby-Doo head with us. It's really heavy. I've still got it, and I'll bring it along to Supernovas. So if you want to see this, come along and I'll tell you all about it, and you can have a photo with it and me. It's pretty amazing. It's dead on, of course, done in to the Hollywood level. They hold the visual effects supervisor would hold that in one hand, and in the other hand you have a ball, like a bowling ball, which is chrome. And what they're trying to do is match the lighting that was just in that scene to Scooby. So the light's going to bounce off the chrome ball and onto Scooby. And the computer guys, this is way above my pay grade, they can match the lighting so that when they build Scooby in the computer, he looks seamless. He looks like he was there. Blows my mind. I can't comprehend that. But Matt was kind enough to organise with the producers to give me that as a wrap gift from Scooby Doo 2, which was a treasured relic and from all those memories. And I take it around with me. I'll be bringing it to Perth. I get some weird looks when that goes through the X-ray machine, but it's pretty amazing. So come along and see it at Supernova's coming up. Sydney and Perth.
Certainly does sound incredible. And like JayBee said, I guess starting to turn to looking towards the future. One question that we would like to ask is, after Casey Kasem retired, Matthew Lillard, of course, became permanent voice of Shaggy in the animation and everything. If Frank Welker were to, ever take a look at stepping away from doing the voice of Scooby, is that a role that you'd be interested in revisiting? I like that reaction.
100,000 million%. Yes, of course. I mean, look, back then, Frank, as you know, did the original Fred voice in the original Scooby Doo. So, I mean, he's a voice icon. He's up there with Mel Blanc, Frank Welker, amazing. So, he's incredible. And fit and healthy, which is great. He's still doing the Scooby. Now does Scooby in the cartoons. And if he ever wanted to retire or do something else, I would love to voice the cartoons moving forward. And I think I've got something to bring to the character too. That's a little. Our voices are slightly different. They are different. But I absolutely love it. Yes, and Astro and whatever the future brings, voice-wise, amazing. I still work in the film industry. I've got to get to set shortly because I'm working on a show in Sydney for Netflix at the moment. I just did a Netflix show in Brisbane Gold Coast at the end of last year. Before that, I was in North Queensland doing a show for Stan. Before that, it continually working is amazing. Still, I did my first movie in 1992, so it's been an amazing career. Still do stunt work when required, and acting and voices, and the industry is amazing. So if anyone in Australia is watching this, or really around the world. The With all these streaming services now, this is the time to get into the film industry if you are hoping to, because there is such demand for crew or cast. And back 7 or 8 years ago, there was one streaming service, Netflix. Now there's 12, and they all need content quickly. I don't think I've seen the industry continuously as busy as it is. Even through COVID, it was, we had to have a little break there, but it's come back with a vengeance. And there's so many productions running. They've just done some major films here in Sydney, this year and last year, and it'll continue. So, great opportunity to get into the industry. But just circling back to that cameo, I think I just went off track, which I do, as you've seen. About the cameo, but that was really cool. It's the scene where the disco scene in at the docks, where Shaggy discovers Old Man Wickles, and they liked my look, and it was a shady bar with all sorts of rough characters, and they said, "Would you like to do a cameo? Because we've got an opportunity for you to interact with Scooby." And the fans really love these when the voice artist meets their character on screen. It's only very brief, so you've got to rewatch it, and fans, and see if you can spot me. But I'm sitting at the bar, and it was the only time in both movies that we actually had anyone in a dog suit. Really, early on, there was Chris Crookshanks. He little person. He just did a bit of stuff, but didn't quite work. But they gave him a role in Scooby One. But this was the only other time where was a dancer actually in the green funky outfit that Scooby does his amazing dance in, with the big fro. Which, I mean, she just had her face there, and they built it later, but they needed a dancer. And she was amazing. And they said, "Oh, we'll just get you to sit down, Scooby to sit down next to you, and Scooby can surreptitiously drink a bit of your drink, and you just give him a look, and you have a bit of a look together." And I don't say anything, but it's a really nice moment. And I thought, this will end up on the cutting room floor. But they kept it, which was so nice. So although it's brief, I do actually appear physically in Scooby Doo 2 momentarily. But it's a great little cameo, a lot of fun. It's good to get a Guernsey on set.
It's amazing. And so obviously being conscious about time, the last question is, of course, we've got that amazing Sydney event for Supernova on the 17th and 18th, and the Perth event that following weekend. So that's absolutely set to be such an incredible set of events. So what's the one thing that you always look forward to in regards to these events? And where's the best place for people watching this to keep up to date with those events and the future of Supernova?
Well, all the socials, their websites continuously updated, Instagram, Facebook, and all those. Supernova, just plug in Supernova and it'll be there. Updates are coming all the time. I think if you can't attend, for instance, they had on their website just yesterday the absentee packages. So you can actually go online and organise for us, whoever you like, to sign some things for you, and they send it to you. And so if you can't attend, which is great, what a service! And so you don't miss out. And of course, I love the Q&As. I'll do an hour Q&A a panel session, and it's just me. There's no panel; it's just me. With an MC, but I answer all the questions from the crowd, and the Supernova crowds, they're the best. They have great questions, and so I'm happy to answer all your questions. So think of something to ask me at my Q&A, and come and watch and listen to a lot of other things I'll talk about with stunts or acting, voices, anything that you want to ask me about. And it's the cosplay costumes that the fans have. Honestly, They're film quality. A lot of them are just so detailed, and the love and passion that I see in their costumes, being a character performer for corporate entertainment as well, and my costumes have to be spot on. I appreciate what they do for their particular that character. So what you see at these events, you can't describe it. It's incredible, and people are playing the parts. It's their safe space. You know, they can just be themselves, and that's what's great about Supernova and Comic Cons generally, is that you know, it's their thing, their hobby, their whatever. So people like gardening, whatever, photography. This is what the fans love about their characters, or their the books that they love, and all those comics that they read, and getting things signed. It's the buzz, the excitement of the whole event, and they have so many other things happening, gaming happening over there. There's competitions. There's the MCs at the Supernovas are great. They keep the vibe going, and all the Q&As from all the other amazing talent that we have joining us for Supernova Sydney and Perth. What a lineup of incredible people that I get to, you know, hang out in the green room, meet, and we, you know, become friends, become a little family. We are a family. I've just, you know, done Melbourne and the Gold Coast with a lot of the people that are coming, and I get to meet voice artists as well, who I've never worked with as well. So yeah, it's a bonus for us, and also for all the talent, and the organisers just do a fantastic job. Yeah, it's been going for 21 years. It's the 21st year of Supernova in Australia, and so well organised, very, very slick. And Daniel does a fantastic job with that too.
That's absolutely incredible. Definitely a set of events to not be missed, and such a bright future ahead. And I'm hoping one day we can make it to some more. Failing that, if they do absentee packs to the UK, like if you get some weird items come through the mail, you know who it is from. So that does it for all of our questions today. Just a sincere thank you so much for joining today. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say that the first live action Scooby Doo movie is my favorite movie of all time, and you're my favorite voice of Scooby Doo. So this has genuinely been a pinch yourself moment. Just thank you so much for all the time you've given us today.
Really appreciate it. I mean, it's been great to be on the Milly and JayBee show, right? Scooby Doo.
I'm so sorry. I'm fighting tears. Like, that is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much to you and to everyone for watching this, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Love you all. Take care.
And all the best for the Supernova events. They're going to be amazing. Thank you so much. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, bye.
See you.